Welcome back, everyone. And for those of you who have just joined us, a very warm welcome to the SG United Financial Sector Jobs and Skills Fair. This two-day event is brought to you by the Institute of Banking and Finance in partnership with Skills Future Singapore, in support of SG United Jobs and Skills, and supported by the MAS, the Banking and Financial Services Unit of NTUC, and WSG. My name is Florence, and I'll be your host for today. For those of you who are looking for job opportunities in the financial sector, we have a very exciting lineup for you this afternoon. We have invited business leaders from our industry partners to share their insights on how job functions have changed and what are some of the key skill sets job seekers would need to accelerate their career progression across various areas. For our first panel, we'll look at how corporate and retail banking functions have evolved with digitalization. On the panel will be Ms. Chan San San, Acting Retail Head and Head of Wealth and Segments, Director, Citibank Singapore, Saurav Bhatia, Global Head, Growth Strategy, Retail Banking, Standard Chartered Bank, and Aaron Chu, Managing Director, Mobile and Digital Banking, United Overseas Bank Limited. The discussion will be moderated by Ms. Tanyan Wei, Head of Employability Skills Development of IBF. The audience is encouraged to post any questions you have for the panel in the Q&A chat function, and we'll address these live at an appropriate juncture. Without further ado, I'll hand the time now over to Yan Wei.
Thank you, Florence. So while we wait for our panelists to join us on video, a very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this fireside chat this afternoon. We are very privileged to have with us on the panel today, Aaron from UOB, San San from Citibank, as well as Saurav from Standard Chartered Bank. So the theme of our chat today is corporate and retail banking transformed. So over the next 45 minutes or so, our panelists will be sharing with us their perspectives on the transformation that's happening within retail and corporate banking and how this has impacted the jobs as well as the skills required for individuals like yourselves who may be interested to pursue careers in these segments. So they will also be very happy to take any questions that you may have. So please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A function found at the bottom of your Zoom utility bar. Right, to start off, I figured I won't be able to do them justice if I were to introduce them. So to start off our chat, I would like to invite them to provide a brief introduction of themselves and perhaps share with us a little story about their own career journeys and how they arrived at where they are today. So may I invite Aaron to start? Over to you, Aaron.
Hi, thanks, Wayne. Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron. I head the mobile and digital banking services at UOB for Group Retail. So for those of you who are UOB customers and you've used Mighty, there's something which me and the team have come up with, right? Working with our technology partners, right, to deliver it to our customers. I think a little story about myself was that I didn't start off in the bank from the start of my career. My first job was at Warner Movies, right? As a fresh graduate, my role was to make sure that movie prints came into Singapore, were censored, and delivered them to the cinemas with the posters and make sure that they were stuck on the walls, right? And that really ruined my movie watching experience. But it was a good job, and we had fun there. I joined the bank, my first bank, right? Not UOB, but another bank. Directly from a budget airline, right, where I was the digital marketing manager, right? So I had no experience in banking, but my then boss wanted to hire people that were not from banking, to basically think of new ideas, challenge the norms, right, and really figure out how can we do things a bit differently. And I do believe that that's what the industry is moving towards now. How do we challenge norms, do things a bit differently, and really innovate in this space? Back to you.
Thank you, Aaron, for sharing. Very interesting. Maybe next we'll move on to San San to share with us her story.
Hi, everyone. My name is San San. I've joined Citi back in 2003. So I am 17 years in the banking industry. Actually, banking is not my first job either. So I actually started out with Singtel, actually doing mergers and acquisitions. So after 3 years being there, I wanted to join the consumer banking, and I joined the management associate program that Citi has. So in the past 17 years, I've really done a lot of multiple roles. My current role is the acting retail head. At the same time, I'm also the wealth and segments head for Citibank Singapore, taking care of all our retail customers from Citi Banking, Citi Priority, Citigold, as well as Citigold Private Client. Last week, there was an announcement, and I will be moving on to a regional role in October, and I will be taking care of Citigold Private Clients across the entire region, over 11 markets. So that's my little background.
Thanks, Anshan. Next, Lauren.
Hi. So I actually didn't want to work for a bank when I started my career. I did my undergrad in economics and decided to become a web designer at that time, working for a tech startup. Spent a few years doing that, ended up coming to Singapore to do my MBA from NUS. And of all things, this is just after SARS, got hired by Citi, similar to the timeline as Sansan, and joined the retail banking innovation team there. And that was like a career of a mixed construct where I got to work in different parts of the bank. Like, people think the bank is one thing, but I worked in finance, in operations, in technology, in front office, in private banking. And each of those roles, and happy to share as we go along, was somebody gave me a chance to try something different. I raised my hand and got me into a place. I've been with Standard Chartered now for 6 years. And I head up a growth strategy for our retail business, which looks at new venture ideas outside the bank. And I was actually fortunate with a small bunch of us who helped come up with the idea for our virtual banking in Hong Kong, and was involved in that journey and have been doing some of those ventures and startups ever since.
Thanks, very interesting. Thank you all for sharing. I think it's very inspiring to know that while all of you came from very different starting points, you now end up with doing what you're most passionate about in your various roles within banking. So next, well, for those of the participants who were with us at the panel discussions this morning, you would have heard about how this pandemic has accelerated the pace of digitalization, and specifically, or maybe more visibly, in the retail and corporate banking segments. I think we're seeing a lot of changes happening. For example, one simple example is that more customers are now moving towards internet banking during this period. So for all these changes that are happening, and I think it's been had a great impact on all of us, not just as banking customers ourselves, but also for those of you who are working within the sector. I think your jobs would have been transformed or changed in some way or another. So having to adapt and to get used to the new way of working must have been challenging to some extent. But I guess for job seekers, it is also a period where they may find some difficulty trying to navigate with all these changes that are happening within the segment. How or what are some of the jobs that are available? So maybe if we could provide some optimism and positivity about these changes, we want to hear from our panelists on how these changes have actually helped to present new opportunities in terms of the types of jobs or roles that are emerging or available in the retail and corporate banking segment today. So maybe back to Aaron to start off. Yeah, over to you.
Okay. So, like you said, I think the whole market now is talking a lot about digital, right? How digital can help customers manage their self-service, how digital can help the banks acquire. But actually, for me, it's very simple, right? It's basically how digital can give back time to people, right, and make things more convenient, right? And I think in that way, a lot of the bank is moving towards, a lot of banks are moving towards how do we provide customers with a better experience, right? And digital is just one of our touch points, right? I think at UOB, we have a more omni-channel strategy, right? Whether it's the branch or ATMs or digital, right? Wherever we go, we hope to offer you a similar great experience. So in my team particularly, right, I look for people that can marry both the business and technology together. I think in the old banking world, there's a very clear line between what is business and what's technology, right? But in the digital space, your business is technology, right? So you can't say that you do not know what is tech about right? Or here are my requirements, now deliver it, right? Without knowing whether they can be done or not. In my team, there are 3 types of people that we are looking for in terms of job opportunities. One are digital product owners. These people interact a lot with our banking products people from our loans, wealth, CASA, cards teams to create then what we believe is the right experience for a person to experience these products in the digital space. Right? Then for these group of people, like I mentioned before, I hope that they can have a very good either business head with a technology experience or a tech background that understand the business well. The second group of people is actually a bit more unique. I do have a team of user experience designers under me. So these are the people that create the customer journeys from start to finish, produce the screens that you see today on a mobile app, and really work closely with the digital product owners, right, to make the vision come to life, right, for our app, right, for customers to experience. The last group of people that I have are more around digital performance marketing people, right, meaning that the guys that work to see how we can actually drive more acquisition online, how to use the platform better in our own earn and paid media spaces to really drive both active numbers for our digital platforms and also to bring more customers in and acquire them digitally. Right? So I think these are the 3 areas that we look at. You do not need to have much banking knowledge, but you definitely need to have experience in the digital space, which most of you as users yourselves will have.
Thank you. So it sounds a lot like you need to be a customer yourself to be able to understand how the customer feels, and as long as you're able to provide that experience that customers are looking for.
Right. I always say that actually the first thing I look for is empathy, right? The ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, so to understand if they are experiencing something, how would they feel, then you can design a better product.
Yeah, and I believe there are a lot of training programs out there that can help, even career job seekers who may not have those experiences to acquire those skills. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So next we move on to San to share with us what are some of the roles that Citibank is looking for with all these changes that are happening.
Well, it's very true that in terms of digital, very much the world has moved towards that. Citi as well, right? And we have started our digital journey very, very early. And actually today, virtually almost all your transactions can be done without meeting somebody on a face-to-face basis. For us also, we have shifted our retail branch strategy to that of a highly digital strategy and a branch-light footprint, which really optimizes our branch network and yet still delivering strong results, right? However, as we all move online, still the human touch as well as the guidance is still very, very important, especially for complex transactions whereby there can be very material impact to the clients. As such, what we are doing is really to evolve our branches to become wealth advisory hubs. So as alluded to, wealth is very much a strategic area of importance for Citi in Singapore. You probably have seen also that we have announced plans for a new wealth management center that will be launched in the later part of the year. And we really intend to increase the number of customer-facing staff that we have over the next 3 to 5 years as well, as we are really looking to expand our customer base. So as a result of that, we will see and we do see a tremendous need for relationship managers, investment consultants, portfolio counselors, insurance specialists, service relationship managers to really help our customers grow, protect their wealth, etc. And also, as all the things that we said around digital platform, we use digital platforms to help us provide our customers access to information and to help them make decisions. So as such, as these job roles evolve, we also place a lot of emphasis in terms of the people who are supporting in the middle office as well as the back office, right? In terms of looking at how do we transform our business processes to make it even more intuitive and user-friendly and simple for our customers, as well as thinking about it very creatively and using critical thinking right? To make sure that we design really the best customer journeys out for our customers. So in terms of some of the skill sets, right, for these roles, really analytical, customer service, empathy, like what Aaron said just now, problem solving, strong communication skills. These are really personal traits that are really critical in addition to being adaptable as well as agile.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Maybe next we'll move on to Saurabh to share with us his perspective.
Sure. So I think StanChart's in a similar position to, I guess, Citi or UOB. We have had a huge push on our digital capabilities, both for the main franchise as well as the virtual bank that we're setting up in Hong Kong and other ventures that we're setting up. So across the portfolio, from an StanChart perspective, we would look for roles which would appear in our traditional banking capabilities, which look at similar constructs like Sansan mentioned around RMs or portfolio advisors or people who are traditional bankers. But we've had a huge push across digital capabilities, similar to what Aaron shared, in terms of product owners. These are people who have a very strong digital background, not necessarily with a banking experience. And actually, sometimes that's the skill set we look for, because the North Star on some of the capabilities we want actually come from either e-commerce merchants, things like Spotify, things like Airbnb, or even, airline industries and so forth. Some of the roles we've brought in from a customer experience standpoint definitely have been from other industries, because, banking has lagged behind in that journey through a variety of considerations around regulation or other constraints we've had. And as we look to build out our capabilities in the digital space, we're looking for talent cross industry in that sense. Of course, technology is an important part of this, and similar to, again, like Aaron said, business is technology and technology is business. You can't really say you have people who run the businesses and don't understand the technology that their business is built on. So there is a significant push from SEB to not only have like top talent on technology, but across specific areas, whether it be around cloud-enabled technologies, data and ML platform and capabilities in that space. Again, across any industry, any construct, I think the skill set needed is similar, where somebody is very keen on really understanding the customer problem, really, getting into its nuts and bolts, do a lot of user testing, figure out how we can solve it, and differentiate on experience and capabilities. Because, if you go back in time, banking products haven't changed much. You take deposits from people, you put them to use by lending it, you help people grow their money. That's not changed, but how people interact with it and experience it definitely needs to catch up with times.
Thank you. So we've got some questions flowing in. So please keep your questions coming for the audiences today. Maybe I'll just start with the first question from Max. So his question is for ex-bankers from wealth management that has been out of the industry for more than 5 years, who may not have, who may not maintain the previous AUM which they acquired. What sort of roles are available if they still have got relevant domain knowledge and great sales skills to move towards a digital banking platform? So maybe I'll direct this question to Sansan, since it's on wealth management.
Sure, happy to take that. I think for us, we do see the mix between digital as well as human touch as critically important. So for somebody who has been in the role or in this space before, and I think specifically Max was also saying that you don't have specific clientele base at this point in time, I think your skills are still there, still very, very relevant. I guess because in the wealth industry, things do move a lot in the markets. So if you have kept up with the markets and continuously upgraded yourself, upskilled yourself in terms of understanding what's happening around the world, and your core skills in terms of listening to customers, helping them to in terms of their financial, helping them solve their financial problems, objectives, and all are still there. Definitely, I think there's still a lot of room for you to be able to contribute as well as to learn and to still move back into the wealth management space.
Thank you. Thanks. I think that's very encouraging. Next, we have a question from an anonymous attendee. So this is for Aaron. So I think you mentioned about empathy. So his question is, with empathy alone, will we be able to join your team? And if not, what other skills do we need? So I guess these are soft skills, and the question is, are there any other technical or hard skills that the person should come with in addition to all these soft skills?
Okay, so I'll answer the question in two parts. I think the other soft skills that you will need are number one, besides empathy, two is resilience, right? I think working in a bank has a lot of challenges, right? Because I think we are constantly thinking on two paths, right? Number one is how do we make things safe for our customers, but at the same time, how do we move at speed, right? Now, I think a lot of the banks have spent decades, right, or hundreds of years, right, for some of them, creating platforms around security, right? And now that they want us to pivot towards speed, it's actually not easy, right? And if you think that joining a bank is like joining a fintech or big tech like Google or Facebook, this is not, right? I think it's hard going, right? We need to be aware of a lot of the things that are happening around us, how it impacts both digital and the finance space. So the ability to be, I think, resilient, right, in challenges, I think is really important, right, besides being empathetic. So on the hard skills alone, right, in my team, people always ask me, can I code? So, the direct answer is no, right? I cannot write a single line of code. The last line of code I wrote was basic, right, when I was probably 15. Okay, but what I can do is that I understand platforms, right. In my mind, it's like little windows and boxes, right, that we can piece together. So I need to have an ability to engage my technology team, to have an open discussion with them, and translate what we actually want to do into things that are reasonable and can be done. Right? So I think the hard skill of being able to code, you don't need it, but you definitely need to have an appreciation of technology. So if you are a person that fears mobile apps, right, because you believe that they are unsafe and you don't use them, then it's hard to find a position in my team. Right? If you're a person that's open to technology, then yeah, that definitely. Then I think on the softer skills side, if I can go back to that, I believe that I would like my team members to be open and to challenge the norms, right? But be considered when doing so, right? I'd rather have a robust debate with you than you pretend that you agree with me and then behind my back say that I don't think everyone is correct. Right? I think this is something which in traditional banks they're a bit more hierarchical, right? But I think in my team it's very flat, right? And speak up, speak your mind, but always have opinion, right? When asked for it, right? We definitely don't want to hire yes people or people that just keep quiet, right? And they can't express anything. So empathy, resilience, open-minded is the soft skills that I look out for, right? From a hard skills perspective, you don't need to code, but you must have an appreciation for technology, right? And know what's happening out there.
Okay, so it sounds like a business analyst role where you are the bridge between the users as well as the technology folks. So you need to have an appreciation of the technology, but you do not need very deep technology skills in order to perform those roles.
Yeah, correct. But at the same time, besides being a business analyst, you also need to multitask as a customer experience person to understand what sort of experience would be seamless, better for a consumer to have, not just from a technical perspective, right? But much more from what would work for our users and making sure that it is easy to use and makes sense for them.
So acquiring skills, sorry, please go ahead.
Just add on to Aaron's piece, right? I would almost say each one is like a mini CEO of their own, right? They're strong, independent, but they know that they have to do everything. It's not like the old day where you said, my job as an analyst, I will write the requirements. And then somebody else's job is the technical guy and he'll write the code. And somebody else is the finance guy and he'll make sure the numbers match. That era is gone, right? Like each one is just like this mini CEO and it's their own company. And, in a way, they drive this independently. And we all, if all of us drive it independently, we have a great platform and a great team, and we work cohesively, right? There's no one rock star, but then everybody's a rock star in that sense.
Does this require, say, a agile methodology type of skill sets, or skills in UX, UI? If they're job seekers without relevant experience, should they be going for such training to acquire those skills?
Well, I don't know. I mean, at my previous job at Stanchart, right? I was just a product manager starting out there, and what I did was that every morning I would give my developers a call and understand, hey, is everything going okay? And I thought just make common sense, right? But then only later on I found out, oh, it was called Agile, right? So actually Agile is very hard to do, right? Because it's actually how do you prioritize stuff, right? Decide what goes first, what comes second. And if something else comes out of the blue, what gets dropped to let this thing go ahead. And it's actually a very rigorous process. So Agile, like I tell my folks, is not anyhow, right? And you don't need to know Agile, right? But you need, like Saurav said, right? You need to really want to own the experience, own the product. And yeah, I think a mini CEO is a fantastic description, right? Because you need to have the ownership of the end-to-end experience, from what the customer sees to how it's processed at the ops team, right? If not, I think it's there will always be gaps in between, which then makes things unworkable for the consumer.
And if I go back to the agile construct, right? Like our experience has been, while you can attend a training session, sometimes the training is a little too theoretical on agile. So I think I would almost say, a bit more common sense on how we want to prioritize it, take that ownership approach of driving some of these things. Actually, in its sense, like Aaron said, agile is not just anyhow. It is actually far more scientific in actually saying what's the velocity of features that you're pushing out, what's the rate that you want to change your prioritization on, and it's just much quicker. But a lot of that will come as teams mature. So even if you're great at it and your team's really weak at it, then the average is the average of the team, right? So I think know about the topic, but as you go into it, just be open to learn and bring your team together up the curve on agile.
Okay, thank you. So I guess, based on the quick scan of the questions that have come in, I guess there are two types of job seekers out there, right? We have those who have got financial sector experience, who may not have experience in the skills that you're looking for. The other group would be someone from outside the sector trying to pivot into financial sector. So between these two groups, what are the chances of them, being able to pivot or transition into the financial sector to perform some of these roles that you've just shared? Maybe we start with Sansan on the wealth management front, and then we can come back to Aaron and Saurav on the more digital roles.
Yeah, sure. So on my side, when we talked about customer facing roles, I think there are a couple of things that we just need to bear in mind, right? So because it's a customer facing role, the ability to be able to connect with customers or people, right, is essentially really important. And in fact, when I looked at the past, people that we have hired, some of the ones who are really successful came from very, very different industries altogether, right? They could have, let me just name a few. I had people who were in the flying industry, right? But because they had such great training, being extremely customer centric, so when they came on as a banker, it actually gave them a distinct edge, right? When it came to really understanding what the customer is looking for, what's the customer's objectives, as well as issues and all that. Of course, different people will come with different sorts of skill sets as well as competencies. So it's important for you to understand what kind of roles you're looking at. And if in your mind, think about what an ideal person in that role will be and what kind of skill sets that person should have. And all roles will have a combination of soft skills as well as technical skills, right? So if you have one, but not the other, but the one that you have, you're extremely good at it and very competent at that area. That's one area that you have, and in terms of experience that others may not have, right? So from that perspective, you should then think about that and say that, okay, I've got one of the two pieces in, and if I want to just ace on the other piece, which is a current gap that I have, what kind of help do I need to get? What kind of training do I need to go for? And if you're hardworking and of course, recognize that inherent gap that you have and just really work hard to make up that difference. And there are many, many skill sets within IBF that helps people build up that technical competency. There are a lot of opportunities that can still, be there for people who are looking for a mid-career change.
Thank you. Thanks. So back to Suresh, maybe you could share a bit about some of these digital roles. I think there was a question around whether you need to have technical background in order to perform some of the roles that you've shared earlier.
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, unless it's a technology role itself, having a tech background is not needed. But I think as you work through your role, I think it's important to be able to understand and appreciate technology. I actually can code, and I lead the business function, but that gives me a very interesting experience of having a discussion with our technology teams around how efficient our code is, what tech platforms we choose, what choices we want to bring in. And I think it's just a skill set that you can't avoid into the future. So if you're looking to be in the workforce for the next 10, 20 years, I think an appreciation of technology and what it can do and how it should be used is important, and you would want to acquire it along the way. I think from our perspective, I do think that if you come from another industry, digital is an enabler for you to actually find roles in banking. I personally think it makes it a little easier than less so in the past, right? Because if you come from an e-commerce player, or if you come from an airline industry, or if you've done certain aspects of certain things, there's an appreciation of that skill set now, where we say actually we want to learn from you, because we actually may not be good at it. And there are many individuals who will say, actually I understand the banking products, and I want to move from core banking into digital, and their banking knowledge on those products can help out. I think somebody asked a question on middle office as well. I think all of those skill sets become in demand. I think the person who said, I've not been in wealth for a while, maybe may struggle, sorry if I'm just saying it as bluntly, may struggle to get a role as an RM just because they've not coming with AUM. But on the digital product side, their experience of how products are sold to clients face to face may help us actually build for that experience in a digital world. And we need their knowledge more than anything else. So I think I would almost see the change to digital is an enabler for different roles to form and people to cross over different industries. And really what you need is be aware of what you bring to the table, so that when you go through the interview process and you pitch yourself, you can articulate your benefits well. Because I think most people I interact with who are either in the digital space or in startups are actually quite keen to bring different people in. I think the place where people struggle is when that interview happens, are they able to articulate their fate and what they bring to the table?
Aaron, maybe you want to share your perspectives as well.
Okay, so I'm looking to the questions, right? So I'm going to try and answer some of them here. So I think the first thing is that I think someone asked, the skill sets that I shared, the softer skill sets, we only get to know after you worked a while with somebody, right? So how does a person communicate that in the interview itself? I think that the first thing that I look for is authenticity, right? I do ask, right, in your previous roles, in your previous jobs, right? Are there examples where you can show that you've been empathetic, resilient, right? And and how was the experience, right? And if you can share that openly with me. Normally, what I look for, right, is I guess a personal connection with the interviewer or the interviewee, right? And then how you fit with the rest of my team, right? I think there are some managers that prefer having a very diverse team so that they can intellectually challenge one another. I prefer to manage my team like a soccer team, right? Everybody understands their roles. If my left back leaves for another team, I can replace it with a left back. So for me, I think the ability to be authentic in the interview, understand share what you can and cannot do, and be open about it is always important, right? Obviously, I will never know whether you are resilient until we put you through the test. But if you say you're resilient and then at the first time problem strikes, then you start being unresilient, right? Then I know that you were, I guess, not being honest. And then the other key thing about, if you have no experience and you want to come into the team, I guess you need to also look at what level we're hiring for, right? If I'm looking for a manager or an AVP, right, my expectations of what a person can do at the start will be lower than if they come in as a VP2, FVP, or SVP, right? So in my own personal career, I took 2 pay cuts, right, to move industries, right, to just try out different things. I do find that people are a bit more unwilling to do it nowadays, right? I think I was laughed at by my friends then, right? I don't recommend it, right? But sometimes I think if you want to switch industries and you want to go in and say, hey, actually I don't know much, but I have a good attitude, right? And I do know the space a bit from being a customer. It's difficult to say, oh, but I was a GM in my previous job and I should be an SVP in your team, right? Because then it's a lot harder, right? And if you look at a job, what I expect you to do will be very different, right? From if you came in at a lower position, right? So if you want to change industry, right? I said that sometimes, hey, maybe you start a bit lower, right? and then work your way up, right? Because definitely, if you have zero experience coming in, it's a bit harder for us to put you into a senior position. Firstly, it will create a lot of problems with my current team on why am I giving this position to somebody that knows nothing about it, right? And secondly, my expectations of you will be very different, right? So I think that's good to keep in mind, and maybe it answers some of the questions there as well.
Thank you. I think building on your response, there are also a few questions around, how if there's someone who used to be an entrepreneur, or someone who was very senior, trying to pivot into a new sector like financial sector, what would be some of the skill sets that you think they should equip themselves with in order to be able to transition smoothly? And yeah.
I'll start first. Yeah. So I think entrepreneurs are great, right? Because they are the mini CEOs, right? In real life, right? And they've done the end-to-end. They've had to look at everything for the company. And I think it's a great thing to be able to be innovative, think out of the box, right? And to have problem-solving skills, right? I think the only thing for entrepreneurs coming into a bank is that you need to realize that your ideas are one of maybe 10, right? And sometimes your ideas will not be picked as the one you will proceed with, because there are many considerations, right? So as long as you're okay with that, right? That I was an entrepreneur where I was my own boss and I could make every decision. And now I'm in a larger organization that takes a lot more consensus, more discussion, right, before we enter into a path. Right? And then I think it's okay, right? I think the entrepreneur, especially in a fintech, gives you a leg up, right? Because you do know what's happening in the industry. I do caution that the speed at which your company used to move in a smaller organization, and that which then requires to move in a bank would be remarkably different. And you have to be ready for that.
Yeah, I think I would second Aaron on that one. We've had the privilege of bringing in some founders who founded successful businesses, and as they vested out, we brought them in. But we brought them into startups that the bank was doing, and they were not like still main bank. And even in that, they felt it was slow, right? Like so if you get into a very mainstream bank role, be prepared that the pace would not match up with what you may be used to. But having said that, if you can adjust and adjust that style to say, look, there is a bigger machinery which needs to come in place. But once that happens, you have enough firepower and a lot more resources at your disposal to pursue that idea, then you have a winner there, right? So you just have to, manage the trade-offs. I speak to friends who are in the startup community, and they always tell me, right, you have a bigger machinery at your back end than we do. We're more concerned about raising money and meeting our next round. So I think it's just that those trade-offs that you need to think through. But the skill set you bring as an entrepreneur and being able to drive a lot of these things yourself is invaluable.
Okay, thanks.
I agree with what everyone is saying. Maybe I'll just add one more small point there. I think in the banking industry, it's fairly regulated, right? From a compliance, legal perspective, and of course, in terms of processes, because it's a banking space and it's very important that they keep customers' assets safe. So there's a little bit of those considerations that people who are not used to being in a banking space could be used, that will need some adjustment. So that's important for you to bear that in mind, and to the extent that whether that will deflate you over time because of the many rounds that you might need to go through just to make sure people get comfortable with what you're suggesting. Something important to take note.
Yeah, thanks, Hassan. I think there's a question for you as well, from Anisha. So I guess she's looking at whether there are roles that are merging. For example, product expertise with sales or service management within the wealth management industry. Maybe you could help us to address that.
Yes, as we shared earlier, I think as we are growing, not just relationship managers, we will be also looking at product specialists, whether they be investment consultants, whether they be portfolio counselors, insurance specialists, people with the product expertise, but yet at the same time being able to know this on a very practical level, to be able to understand what the customers are looking for and translate the technical expertise and ideas into solutions that make sense and gel together with everything else that the customer is facing. So yes, those roles are clearly part of the roles that will be available as well as we are looking to grow the space.
There's one more question for Aaron and Saurabh. I guess they're looking at someone with a middle or back office roles who is innovative and resilient in a fintech startup environment, understanding technology as such as blockchain or for some of the digital product owners. So I guess the question is whether such someone from middle or back office would be suitable if you're looking at some of the more digital roles that you have within your organization.
Well, maybe I'll start first before Saurabh. I guess two questions, right? I think number one is that we still have a very large middle and back office in the bank, right? Would you want to be part of our middle and back office there, right? So if the answer is yes, then yeah, definitely, right? You do have the necessary experience, and that's not a problem. If you want to do a switch and say, okay, I don't want to be in the back office, I want to be in the team that produces the app or the experience, then I guess the question is, are you able to use what you know to actually create a tangible use case that customers want, right? And if you can do that, then definitely, I think there will be a lot of opportunities for you. I think the ability is to be able to convert the technical knowledge into something which then can be truly utilized by people out there.
Yeah, and I guess on our side, right, across some of the work that we've done for a virtual bank in Hong Kong or other ventures that we're building out, there are digital product owners for middle and back office as well, right? So it's not a digital product owner doesn't mean it's always for the front end app. It's for our finance systems, it's for our reconciliation. I mean, we've hired a very senior person to drive reconciliation for us and build the systems and run a few sprint teams on the back of that and drive it. So, you may want to also explore options where you are a digital product owner for a back office area, which gets you to understand how that product ownership role works and how that experience works with the other front end parts, and then make the next step of transition into a totally front end digital product owner, or maybe you just like what you're doing and stay in that space. So I think I would almost suggest keep an open mind as you work through it.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think we're coming to the end of our session. So maybe just as to close off the session, maybe can I just invite all of you to give some word of advice to our job seekers out there who may be interested in some of the roles that you have. I guess there are also a lot of traineeships and programs that are available, for some of these job seekers to try out some of the roles that you have shared. I guess a lot of skills are actually acquired on the job. So through these traineeships, it provides a great opportunity for them to feel for themselves firsthand on what the role entails, and for the company and themselves to understand if there is a good fit between themselves and the organization. So maybe just some closing words from the panelists. Sansan, you want to go first?
Sure, happy to. So I think if you think that this industry is what is suited for you, really, and do talk to as many people as possible, right, to get to move out from the glamour and go beyond, and make sure that that's really the path that you want to get to. I think two things I would say: really have a very keen awareness of what you bring to the table. What do you know? What do you not know? Right? And the things that you don't know or are not very sure whether you will do well in, right? What help will you need? And how will you then bring yourself up to speed, on that front, right? Is it a course that you need to take up? Or is it you need practicing mentors along the way, or buddies who can just help you out? So having that mindset of being humble and being willing to, do what you can and really strive to really get to where you want to be, and having really a very good idea and determination to succeed in this role will really be then, what you need to bring to the table.
Sorry, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I think I would agree with Sansan. I think self-awareness of your strengths, weaknesses, and what you bring to the table is like a definite requirement. I've actually spent a lot of time interviewing people because a lot of our roles require a lot of discussions across various things. But I do feel that while we've spoken about the opportunity itself, I think how you plan for that interview, how you up your skills, how you actually communicate that, how you interact, do spend some considerable time, right? Because it's one thing to get your foot in the door, if somebody looks at your resume, calls you, but if you can't convert that because you're not prepared or haven't thought through or understood what the company is looking for or what you're looking for, that's just another wasted opportunity. So I would actually really encourage. And I've had a friend who's actually, I know a few friends recently who changed roles and changed industries, and I can tell you one of them really put a lot of effort over 3-4 months, actually doing mock interviews with me on a very regular basis and saying, how does it work out? And I've heard great feedback on his interviews from people I've referred him to. So that kind of construct, I think, is a very critical thing if you're looking to change industries or work on some new opportunities.
Thank you. So next we have Aaron to close out.
I couldn't agree with Sansan more. I think being authentic is very important, right? I think being able to communicate what you can do and what you can't do, for me is really key, right? When I'm interviewing somebody, because if you tell me you can do everything, right, I'll never believe you, right? But if you can say that, hey, this is what I'm good at, but this is where I need help, right? And I think it's fine. I think that there'll be a really good place to start, right? Because I think authenticity and honesty is something which definitely are key things that I look out for if people want to join me, besides having the softer and harder skill sets. Now, I think in the spaces where what you can do is that, there are a lot of traineeship programs now, right? I think we've recently hired 2 trainees, fresh graduates, to come to join us, right? And 2 more will be on their way. 2 are in the space of the user design team. One is a product owner that's focused on wealth, right? And one is basically going to be helping our sales and acquisition team, right? Driving acquisition for CASA and cards online. So I think these are areas, if you are a fresh grad, right, you can actually look at these opportunities and start from there. I think there is opportunity, I think, for mid-career folks as well. In traineeship programs that's about to start, and I think one is being helped by Google, right, for marketing and analytics. So I think look for all these opportunities, right, and then really go all out for them. Make sure that I think because we don't know you, all we have sometimes your resume, right, and we have like hundreds of resumes. So find things which catch your eye. Tell us a life story that you have, right? Everybody just lists down, these are my job, this is what I've done, this is my job, this is what I've done, right? Which is important, but I think make your CV a bit more different, right? Such that it actually catches our eye, right? And then we'll have, hey, this is interesting, right? Maybe I should just meet the person. I think the great thing is that I think the interview is, I mean, stepping into the door for the interview is the first thing, right? And after that, it's basically all up to you already, right? So I think someone asked, how could you join my team? I mean, I think all of us are on LinkedIn, right? So you can look us up there, right? And drop us a note, right? And I'm sure we'll get back to you.
Thank you so much. So with that, we've come to the end of this session. Please join me to thank our panelists for their very generous sharing. So thank you, and hope you enjoy the rest of this afternoon's session. Back to you, Flo.